Well, we're moving along. Starting another parsha. So this one is called Lekh Lekah. Um, it's from the first sentence, as usual. All the parshas, the title of the parsha is from some phrase or some word out of the first, pretty much the opening sentence of the particular portion. But you're gonna see how that phrase is gonna kind of be like the theme of this whole chunk of scripture. So it starts from Genesis 12:1, ends at Genesis 17:27. The Haftarah portion is Isaiah 40:27 through 41:16. And then the Brit Kadashah portion, New Testament portion, is Romans 4:1 through 25, Galatians 4:21 through 5:1, and then Hebrews 7. So yeah, as we kind of go through it, yeah, this one is kind of an easy one. We'll be able to see the parallels between the different Haftarah and Brit Kadashah portion. All right, so Lekh Lekah. All right, so starting off with our introduction. So examples written for our learning. So we got Romans 15:4. Whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope. So one part of it is, especially looking at this untoward generation, is it's some dark stuff. But then on a flip side of it, we can look at these examples that were written for our learning and look at these things in the scriptures and know that we're supposed to be comforted by it and have hope. Because whatever reward that the righteous got in that time, we can see, okay, this is how Elohim operates, and the same door is open to us. 1 Corinthians 10:11, and all these things, and all these came upon them as examples, and they were written as a warning to us, on whom the end of the ages have come, so that he who thinks he stands, let him take heed lest he fall. No trial has overtaken you except such as common to man. And Elohim is trustworthy, who shall not allow you to be tried beyond what you are able, but with the trial shall also make the way of escape, enabling you to bear it. So that says a lot, though, right? This means that it's nothing special or unique about Noah or about any of the righteous that we've been seeing up to this point, except they've chosen the Father over everything else. That's the only thing that sets them apart and is making them different. There's nothing in them that they are so spectacular or so special or so gifted or so unique that they have something that is unattainable that we can't reach out and grasp. Everything that they go through is something that's common to man, but they was able to overcome by making the proper choices. Now, this is another thing that's going to be interesting that we're going to see, because the more you level up, you're going to notice that the heat gets turned up on the trial a little bit, like to whom much is given, much is required, right? And if you can be faithful with little, then he can, okay, let me heap on a little bit more, and let's see if you continue to be faithful in it until you finally do end up getting to that point. Most of us aren't faithful in a little, so we don't even get a chance or opportunity to be faithful with much. So yeah, they are examples for our learning, and we'll be able to see. And it also drawing a parallel, you're gonna see, like, most of these cases you seeing, the men are well in age, the women are well in age. By the time they get into the big, we picking up where they're at the big. Okay, this is the whole covenant about to be dropped on you. How faithful had he had to have been? Speaking of Abram, how faithful had he had to have been leading all the way up until he almost 100 years old? Like, really thinking about that, like, nah, he didn't just wake up and all of a sudden the Father is like, the whole keys of the whole master plan is on your shoulders. That's not how it works. But yeah, all praises. So Shalom Mishpachah. Today we are starting the next parsha. The title of this parsha is Lekh Lekah, which can be translated as "Go Yourself." So, in other words, Elohim tells Abram to get up, get out, and get something. As the song goes, right? Get up, get out, and get something. Keep the title of this parsha in mind as we go through it. This parsha will continue and expound on many themes that we saw in the previous two parshiot. So also keep in mind, we have been primarily focusing on two main points. What can you learn about you, and what can you learn about Yahuwah? So pay close attention to these 2 points as we go through this portion. Excuse me. So we'll also get a chance to look at history and additional texts that may help give us a little more context for this particular portion. And then we'll also we'll pick up with the next generation. So now we moving from Noah and his sons. Now we moving into the next phase, to the next generation. And keep in mind what we saw last week, like every time the door is getting closed more and more, and it's getting more specific each iteration, and each generation is getting less and less broad. But if this one generation can get it right, then it's going to open up the door of re-entry for all the previous generations. So we'll see what the Father is trying to offer mankind according to his compassion and favor. So, okay, so sorry, y'all. It's some of these slides I was, trying to be conscious of the space. It's font gonna be a little bit small on some of them, but hopefully we can make it through it. But following the generation. So this is picking up where we left off last week, Genesis 11:10. This is the genealogy or the generation of Shem. Shem was 100 years old, and he brought forth Arpachshad 2 years after the flood. And after he brought forth Arpachshad, Shem lived 500 years and brought forth sons and daughters. And Arpachshad lived 35 years and brought forth Shelah. And after he brought forth Shelah, Arpachshad lived 403 years and brought forth sons and daughters. And Shelah lived 30 years and brought forth Eber. And after he brought forth Eber, Shelah lived 403 years and brought forth sons and daughters. And Eber lived 34 years and brought forth Peleg. And after he brought forth Peleg, Eber lived 430 years, or lived 430 years and brought forth sons and daughters. And after he brought forth Reu, Peleg lived, I think I skipped verse 18. And Peleg lived 30 years and brought forth Reu. And after he brought forth Reu, Peleg lived 209 years and brought forth sons and daughters. And Reu lived 32 years and brought forth Serug. And after he brought forth Serug, Reu lived 207 years and brought forth sons and daughters. And Serug lived 30 years and brought forth Nahor. And after he brought forth Nahor, Serug lived 200 years and brought forth sons and daughters. And Nahor lived 29 years and brought forth Terah. And after he brought forth Terah, Nahor lived 119 years and brought forth sons and daughters. And Terah lived 70 years and brought forth Abram, Nahor, and Haran. And this is the genealogy of, or the generation of, Terah. So now we're looking at his generation. Terah brought forth Abram, Nahor, and Haran. So notice now Terah is kind of in the same situation as Noah, right? This is the generation of Noah, and Noah got 3 sons. Now you're seeing Terah, and Terah got 3 sons. But you're gonna see that it's gonna get narrowed down, and only one of them sons gonna be able to cut the mustard. The other 2, well, yeah. So it says, and Haran died, and Haran brought forth Lot. And Haran died before his father Terah, in the land of his birth, in Kasdim, or of the Chaldeans. And Abram and Nahor took wives. The name of Abram's wife was Sarai, and the name of Nahor's Milcah, the daughter of Haran, the father of Milcah, and the father of Yiscah. Now, just we're not going to go there today, but later we're going to keep in mind this Nahor and Milcah thing that's going on because they come up later. So keep in mind this Milcah. Keep in mind Nahor. And later on, we're going to start seeing, oh, that's where this comes from. So, yeah, leave that there for now, but just keep them in mind. So verse 30, and Sarai was barren. She had no child. And Terah took his son Abram and his grandson Lot, son of Haran, and his daughter-in-law Sarai, his son Abram's wife, and they went out with them from the Kasdim to the land of Canaan. And they came to Haran and dwelt there. And the days of Terah came to be 205 years, and Terah died in Haran. Now, notice something is going on here. It's saying that Terah took his son Abram, that he took the son and the family to this land of Canaan. Then we're going to see what's going on when we get to chapter 12. All right. So something is something that's going on, and you're going to see perhaps. Now notice this is not the generation or the generation of Abram. This is the generation of Terah. Let's just say perhaps the door got open and the door had to be closed. All praises. So who was Abram? Yeah, okay. Making sure I didn't skip a slide, but no, we're told me. All right. So who was Abram, and what can we learn from Abram today? There was obviously something about Abram that set him apart from every other person at that time. What did Elohim see in Abram that caused him to make his covenant with him? And what was the character of Abram or Abraham? All of these questions can aid us in our walk with Elohim. So just keeping all of that in mind when we look at, again, how we open. Whatever he did, if we can replicate it, whatever he did, we can do the same stuff that he did and get the same results that he got if we be willing to make those same choices. All right, so yeah, time release on some of these was way slower in transitioning to the next slide, so we might be waiting a minute from slide to slide, but yeah, we'll get through it. So just following the generation. So Abraham, and this is an excerpt from Wikipedia. Abraham, originally Abram, is the common Hebrew patriarch of the Abrahamic religions, including Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. In Judaism, he is the founding father of the special relationship between the Jews or Yahudim and Elohim. In Christianity, he is the spiritual father or progenitor of all believers, whether Jewish or we'll say Israelite or non-Israelite, non-Israel. And in Islam, he is a link in the chain of Islamic prophets that begins with Adam or Adam. So they say see Adam or Adam in Islam and culminates in Muhammad. So notice how all three Abrahamic religions focus on one particular aspect of Abraham. Hopefully we will see that focusing on only one aspect of the person of Abraham will leave us with an incomplete picture of what he really represents. As we study, we will take a look at how Abraham really embodies an element of all 3 points of view. And we can only understand what Abraham represents in light of all 3 vantage points. So basically, to sum it up, the Israel-centric point of view is he's the founding father of a special relationship between Elohim and Israel. That's it. Yes, that's true, but that's not Abraham in totality. The Christian point of view, he's spiritual father for all people. Forget Israel. Nah, yes, he is spiritual father, and the door is open to all nations through what is being done with Abraham. But that's not, if you eliminate Israel out of that picture, we off. And then we got the Islamic point of view, which is, it was interesting. They look at him as a continuation of Elohim's plan from Adam or Adam. The Muhammad part, I'm gonna leave that where that's at. But the point of view of him being a connection in the chain between himself and Adam and keeping the promise alive that was made with Adam going all the way through, that is true. And we are seeing that Abram is still that same hope that was offered to Adam is now being presented to Abram. So one of the key traits of Abram was his obedience to Elohim because of his faith. Even when things look grim for Abram, he always seems to keep his eyes on a greater goal and walks in obedience. In fact, this is one of the first things that we learn about Abram when we are introduced to him in the scriptures. Now, some might say that's familiar, say, well, nah, he had that one time where he ain't, that wasn't what the father told him. And when we get to that, we'll cross that and be able to look at it and say, like, yeah, this is the case. The same with David and same with a lot of them that are Moses, a lot of them. You're going to see some hiccups in the process, but what they are showing us is because of faith, how to overcome and how to still come out on the positive side of things.
Whereas it by no means makes provision for us to live a lifestyle doing the opposite of what we're instructed. It does show the compassion and the faithfulness of our Lord and give us hope that we can attain, just like you were saying in the introduction. We can attain this significant relationship with our Creator if we would sincerely try to overcome ourselves.
All praises. Can't say it better. All praises. So Genesis 12, starting at verse 1, and Yahuwah said to Abram, go yourself out of your land, Lekh Lekah, from your relatives and from your father's house to a land I will show you. Now, again, we should see some contrast from what we just saw in Genesis 11, right? Because it said Terah done took the fam and he done led them to the land of Canaan, and then they get to Haran, and that's where he died. Now we seeing get yourself out of your land from your father's house to a place that I'm gonna show you. Get yourself. A little bit different. And I shall make you a great nation and bless you and make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. And I shall bless those who bless you and curse him who curses you. And in all the clans of the earth and in you all the clans of the earth shall be blessed. So Abram left as Yahuwah had commanded him, and Lot went with him. And Abram was 75 years old when he set out from Haran. So, to give a little background, Abram comes at a very pivotal point in the Genesis text. He comes at a time when mankind is in a state of rebuilding. So in Genesis chapter 6 through 10, we read the story of his ancestor Noah and how because of the world's decline in morality, Elohim sent the flood to destroy and restart creation, sparing only Noah and his family on account of Noah's righteous walk with Elohim. We see that after the fall of Adam and Eve, the world has spiraled into a chaotic place, breeding corruption and wickedness. We saw that in Genesis 6, 5 through 7. So after the earth is renewed in the days of Noah, we see that the world starts to return to its corruption. In Genesis chapter 11, we read about the Tower of Babel and how the inhabitants of the land are once again in rebellion to Elohim. So Abram lives in a time and place where idol worship and corruption are a way of life. For instance, we know that Terah, his father, was an idol worshiper. Joshua 24:1 says, and Yahushua or Joshua gathered all the tribes of Israel to Shechem and called for the elders of Israel and for their heads and for their judges and for their officers. And they presented themselves before Elohim. And Yahushua said to all the people, thus said Yahuwah Elohim of Israel, long ago your fathers dwelt beyond the river. Now keep that in mind, where they dwelt beyond the river. Terah, the father of Abraham and the father of Nahor. And they served other mighty ones. They served other Elohim. So I took your father, because of this, I took your father Abraham from beyond the river and caused him to go through all the land of Canaan and multiplied his offspring and gave him Isaac. So now, keep that point in mind. Because of this, I called Abraham to go beyond the river and caused him to go through all the land of Canaan. Now, we're going to get to this in a couple slides. Why is he causing him to go through all of the land of Canaan, right? Because he could have easily promised him, I'm going to give you a land, don't worry about it. Why does he specifically say, no, get up and come to a place I'm going to show you? And maybe we're going to see that there's something about the place that he shows him that he is really, this covenant that he's making with him is he doing a lot. So in this, we see a pattern of faith consistent with the teachings of Yahushua. All right. So just to point that out, right? Leaving being called out to leave from the house of your father. Okay. We see it. Matthew chapter 10, Yahushua puts it this way. Do not think that I have come to bring peace on earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to bring division. A man against his father, a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. And a man's enemies are those of his own household. He who loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. And he who loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And he who does not take up his stake and follow after me is not worthy of me. He who has found his life shall lose it, and he that has lost his life for my sake shall find it. All right, so again, we see Yahushua himself living by this principle in Matthew 12. And while he was still talking to the crowd, see, his mother and brother stood outside, seeking to speak with him. And one said to him, see, your mother and your brothers are standing outside, seeking to speak with you. But he answering said to the one who spoke to him, who is my mother and who are my brothers? And having stretched out his hand toward his disciples or taught ones, he said, see my mother and my brothers. For whoever does the desire of my Father, who is in the heavens, is my brother and sister and mother. So keep in mind what caused the scattering in the previous parshas, right? Rebellion against the Most High. This is what has caused a scattering. So when he's saying he's coming to divide, what you think is causing the division? Disobedience to this very sword, this word. It's either going to be a stone to stumbling and a rock of offense or a chief cornerstone. The choice is completely up to you, but the same one tool can be used to either gather together or it can be used to divide, right? We want to be on the side where we getting gathered together instead of having to be divided because of disobedience. All right, all praises. So all of that aside, what we really looking at is we looking at Abraham's or Abram's at this point, his character. What is he willing to wager for a relationship with his allure? To the point he is even willing to go to an unknown place, completely foreign territory, a place where he is going to be a stranger, And we'll get into that a little bit later on too, in later parts of the Torah portion, where you'll see where he's going to get certain treatment and his descendants are going to get a certain treatment because they're strangers in this land. This wasn't an easy call for him to just, he wasn't going to just go into a foreign land and fit in and blend right on in. That's not how that works. And he's got to do it leaving everything that he's known behind. But again, keep in mind, this is not stuff that is beyond the scope of what we are able to do.
Torah portions, because you get, when you're just reading it, just like, oh, la, la, okay, next chapter. But like when you really take a moment to really dive in and see, okay, what was the possible thought process, or or how could this relate to me? And you reading more information, you could be able to really understand. No, our ancestors were just like us, like, so it's possible, to be able to be pleasing to the Father. Abraham is a beautiful example. You know what I mean? So yeah, the Torah portions, they really are important.
My praises. So this is where Abram comes from. All right. So we see that Abraham is called to walk out as well. Abram, or Abraham, came from Ur of the Chaldees, which is located in modern day Iraq, ancient Babylon. At Tel Bukhayar is where there's a couple of places where a couple of places that were called Ur. And it's debatable whether or not this particular region or another region a little bit a few miles out was specifically the Ur of Abram, but I would say the more common consensus is that is this place. And as we dig into it, we'll kind of start to see how some things that they found at this place actually ties into the story. So yeah. But yeah, this place, Tel Mukiar. All right. So this area was known to be the home of many items, including Nana, Inanna, Ishtar, and Shamash. All right. So got some pictures of things that they found. And these are idols that span over many time periods in this region. Like all of these idols didn't come from the same time period. Like those little serpent head men things come from from what they call the Ubaid period.
Yeah.
Then you got the time period of all of the idols got these huge eyes, and a lot of them got their mouths open and things like that. Then you have some of from the time period of, say, like Nebuchadnezzar. And it seems to be that they keep on returning back to the same pattern of idolatry in this region. All praises. So this is the kind of stuff they dig up there. They dig up a lot of idols. Man, that one even in the upper right hand corner, he even looked like a tree with some, oh my dear. But some traditions are very old. I just put it like that. Oh, shall I go back? No worries. My bad. The time. There we go. All right. So yeah, that guy right up there in the upper right hand corner. Yep, it's a form of, yeah, I just put it like that. And he has a little pine cone in his hand. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. I'm gonna just lead at that. But yep, that's a pine cone in his hand. And yep. Some traditions are very old. I just leave it at that. So there are extra biblical accounts that recount the idol worship of Abraham's family. So the Apocalypse of Abraham preserves some of the traditional tales about Abraham's upbringing. In the writing, Abraham or Abram is portrayed as turning away from the idol worship of his father Terah and tries to convince his father to do the same. All right, so Apocalypse of Abraham. We just read through some excerpts from it. This story is kind of how it opens up, but it's kind of telling about why Abram is chosen to say, get away from your father's house to a place that I'm gonna show you. So Apocalypse of Abraham, it says, this is starting at the beginning, starting at 1. It says, on the day when I planed the Elohim of my father, Terah, and the Elohim of Nahor, his brother, when I was searching as to who the mighty Elohim in truth is, I, Abraham, at the time when it fell to my lot, when I fulfilled the services or the sacrifices of my father Terah to his Elohim of wood and stone, gold and silver, brass and iron, having entered into their temple for service, I found the Elohim whose name was Merimoth, hewn of stone, fallen forward at the feet of the iron Elohim, or the iron deity, Nahum. So it's his turn. His pops got him up to do the idol worship, offer up the sacrifices to his idols. And when he walked into the temple, he seen that the idol he was supposed to be doing the sacrifice to then took a trip to Foe City. He messed up. So the story continues with Terah finding out about the broken idol. All right, so this is jumping down a little bit. It says, and it came to pass when my father saw that the head of Merimoth had fallen from him, he said to me, Abraham. And I said, here I am. And he said to me, bring me an axe of the small ones from the house. And I brought it to him. And he hewed aright another Merimoth out of another stone without head. And the head which had been thrown down from Merimoth, he placed upon it. And the rest of Merimoth he shattered. Abraham is given 5 more idols by Terah to go and sell in the market. As he is trying to sell the idols, some of the idols are broken. And this causes Abraham to think about the logic in worshiping idols. So now we're jumping down to chapter 3. It says, when I was still going on the way, my heart was perplexed within me, and my mind was distracted. And I said in my heart, what evil deed is this that my father is doing? Is not he rather the Elohim of his Elohims? Since they come into existence through his chisels and lathes and his wisdom, and is it not rather fitting that they should worship my father, since they are his work? What is this delusion of my father and his works? Behold, Merimoth fell and could not rise in his own temple, nor could I by myself move him until my father came, and the 2 of us moved him. And as we were thus too weak, his head fell from him, and he, my father, set it upon another stone of another Elohim, which he had made without head. And the other 5 Elohim were broken in pieces down from the donkey, which were able neither to help themselves nor hurt the donkey because it had broken them to pieces. So we skipped that part, but there's a part of the story where he takes, basically, Terah makes idols and tells him, hey, yo, I need you to go make some change. Take these 5 idols and go down to the city and sell them and bring the bread back. So on the way, Abram, they hit some bumpy terrain, idols dropping, the donkey like stepped on them and broke them. So now he's sitting there vexed, like, what am I gonna do about these idols? Because I gotta go back to Pops and I'm gonna have to go back empty-handed. because he gonna want to know where the money is. But the idols is broken and I can't sell them because they're broken. So as he's on this walk, he's pondering, well, what sense does this make?
Being an idol maker, that's a way of making a living.
Mm-hmm. And then keep in mind, what economies are there for wanderers? They traveling from city to city without a place to call their own. We just saw, okay, they leaving from, so this is a way that I can make money on the go, because anywhere I go, it's gonna be somebody that can buy these. I'm a hustler. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Time. Verse.
You know what I mean? That it could just completely just same way. Just think of it like, how can we relate to this situation? Not idolatry.
Absolutely. So 4. So he says, and I said in my heart, if this be so, how can Merrimath, my father's Elohim, having the head of another stone and himself being made of another stone, rescue a man or hear a man's prayer and reward him? Abraham returns after selling the idols, and his father commends him, but Abraham is not so elated. And while I cogitated this, it's funny, we was talking about cogitation. And while I cogitated this, I reached my father's house, and having watered the donkey and set out hay for it, I brought the silver and gave it into the hand of my father Terah. So for this, my bad, y'all. For the sake of trying to save time on reading the whole story, I kind of got to the basis of it. But what happened in between here is he put a move down with the inhabitants and sold the two that didn't get broken for the price of the 5, basically is what he did. So he came back with the whole amount of money. So Terah is happy, but his mind is still messed up and wheels are still spinning, like this whole ordeal didn't make an ounce of sense.
Yeah. Like people are in error.
Mm-hmm.
Our father is in error.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's significant. And he's like, yo, shouldn't these idols be worshiping my father? He the one that made them.
Mm-hmm.
He the one that fashioned them. What the mess are we doing here? What are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, like we do that now to this day. When we're occupied in certain things, whether it be a job, whether it be a hobby, whether it be whatever, a relationship, whatever. Listen, we be in contemplation, in cogitation. Like, what am I doing here? How does this make it? Or at least we ought to be. It would behoove us to be. Because if it don't make that, I don't know if anybody else family said it. My family said if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense.
Makes sense.
You know, if it ain't adding up, what's the point of keep going on?
Okay, shalom everybody. Just one quick question. What is cogitation? You gotta tell the old man something because I am lost.
Shalom, elder. Cogitation. We are getting the actual definition. That is, in short, it's the ability to really think on something, to ruminate, but we're going to get an actual definition for you. Cogitate. It is the action of thinking deeply about something, or contemplation.
In Sirach chapter 17, it said this is why he gave us the senses that we have, is so that we could cogitate. And then he gave us the ability to speak so that we can share what we done stewed over, especially when it comes to the meditations of our Creator.
All praises, Bavakasha, everybody.
No praise.
All praises. Okay, so yeah, I just start over. So he said, and while I cogitated this, I reached my father's house, and having watered the donkey and set out hay for it, I brought the silver and gave it into the hand of my father Terah. When he saw it, he was glad. He said, "Blessed are you, Abraham, of my Elohims, because you have brought the price of the Elohims, so that my work was not in vain." And I answered and said to him, "Hear, O my father Terah, blessed are the Elohims of thee, for you are their Elohim, since you have made them, for their blessing is ruination, and their power is vain. They who did not help themselves, how shall they then help you or bless me? I have been kind to thee in this affair, because by using my intelligence, I have brought thee the money for the broken deities." And when he heard my word, he became furiously angry with me, because I had spoken hard words against his Elohim. It's real deep.
It's real tough when, for one, outside of Yahuwah and accepting his challenge to come forth, which often means first we have to rise up from our base level of desires and our base level of meditations to higher things, to feel like we'll be bankrupt if we forsake these base level things. So much so we get angered at the thought of someone saying, "Come forward. Step away from that. Or put that down. Consider this." And it still happens today.
I was gonna say that just speaking to what you started out the parsha with, the three perspectives of Abraham or Abram, and none of those speaking to the deeper level of contemplation or cogitation that he was so known by the Most High for. And that being his basis, or being an argument like maybe that's, what his children do. He's going to teach, or those who are actually studying or looking into who Abraham is, modeling themselves after their father, they going to really wonder and really start to question and search. Because like I said, he was looking for the L of truth. That's what he was looking for. And he was questioning within himself, this don't make no doggone sense. Why are we doing these things? It don't make sense. So fast forward, it don't make sense to continue on doing this just because everybody in my hood doing it, because everybody in my hood that's doing it is getting these kinds of results, dead, hurt, or in jail. Ruminations. Oh, ruin. Oh,
The slide, it says their blessing is ruination.
okay.
And ruination, the action or fact of ruining someone or something, or of being ruined. And that's, when nothing challenges you to rise up from your base level desires, is ruining you. Or if it placates your decisions to stay in that cycle, is ruining you.
So yeah, I thought you said rumination, my bad. No. But yeah, his ability and his desire, because everybody, if you got a brain, you have the ability to cogitate, to ruminate, to contemplate, to think deeply. You have the ability to. Do you have the desire to? Are you comfortable with how things are going? Which are you sighing out of vexation? Are you looking at things and just perturbed by what you're seeing and what you're experiencing? Are you pleased to dwell within the midst of that? And I think that's as we're reading and as this stuff is unfolding, I think that's an important aspect to kind of take a mental note of about forefather Abraham. He he was trying to look for what made sense.
Mhm.
Period. He was trying to look for what what's the real deal? What's really going on here?
Mhm.
You know, and calling the Most High to task. Okay, if this is if this ain't it, who are you?
Mhm.
Who are you, the one who made this sun? Because in another place, like I'm saying, it's similar kind of story in another place, and he's like, well, maybe the sun is my L.
Mhm.
No, you go
That don't
down.
make sense. Yeah, no, that don't make
You can't
sense.
keep yourself in the sky if you try. Maybe the moon is. No, you ain't it either. So who are you who made all of this?
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So I think that's something significant about paying attention about things that we ought to try to embody as well. Like, what's the real?
Mhm. All praises. All praises. So the story continues with similar run-ins between the two, where Abraham challenges Terah to stop worshiping idols. Now, whether you believe this to be an inspired text or not is a completely different debate, right? Like that's a matter of faith, and I'm gonna leave it up to you. But whether it is or it isn't, there is still a great deal that we can learn from it. In this, we can at least see that there were rich traditions regarding the character of both Abraham and Terah. These legends are used to provide a motivation for Elohim calling Abraham away from the house of his father. And just want to say, we saw Joshua saying this, and Joshua came 400 some years after Abraham. So there had to have been some sort of something that was being passed down from generation to generation about the character of both Abraham and Terah. Because he knows in his generation, 400 years later, through captivity and everything, Terah was an idol worshiper. How did he know? But yeah. So following these generations. So we see that Abraham is called a Hebrew. All right. Now we see that a little bit further in the text in Genesis 14:13. It says, and there came one that had escaped. We'll get to the story of this, but I just want to point out the fact that he is called a Hebrew and told Abram the Ivri or Hebrew, for he dwelt in the plain of Mamre the Amorite, brother of Eshcol, brother of Aner, and these were confederate with Abram. All right, so we'll get to that actual part of the story. The only thing I wanted us to focus on is that he is a Hebrew, and I want us to actually look at, well, what does it mean to be a Hebrew? What is a Hebrew? All right, so what is a Hebrew? So H5680, that's our word there for Hebrew. An Eberite, that is Hebrew, or a descendant of Eber. So we just saw in Genesis 11 that Eber was one of the descendants of Shem. All right, so that particular individual, all of his children are Hebrews. Abram is one of these descendants. So comes from H5677. And it's just saying that this is the name of two of these patriarchs. That's the one that we just we're talking about in Genesis 11:10-17. Root of the word of his name is H5676. Properly a region across. All right, so now notice that it said that he called Abraham to cross. So we're gonna get into exactly, well, what is this? What's the significance of this? I called you to cross over into this land, into a place you didn't know, and I showed you the land of Canaan. What we're gonna see is something that the father is really cooking up with why he's doing this and causing Abraham to, or Abram at this point, to do all of these things. So, but used only adverbially, with or without a preposition, on the opposite side. Especially, now keep that in mind, on the opposite side, especially of the Jordan, usually meaning the east, against, beyond, by, from, over, passage, right? So something that's on the other side, right? We will look at the root of this word a little more in the next slide, and hopefully it will help us to see what Abraham represents for us as Hebrews. And then that's Genesis 11, right? I don't have to read it because we read it already. But we see Eber, and Abram is a descendant of this man Eber, and that's what makes him a Hebrew. All right. My bad. My bad. And then on the next slide, we're going to H5674. Oh my dear. So all right, so H5674, a bar. Here's the Brown Drivers Briggs. And this is the root of the word, the verbal root, right? To pass over, or by or through, to alienate, bring, to carry away, to take away. In some cases, you'll see it's to transgress. When they say, like, we say the same sort of thing today, and it's in our language today, right? When we say, man, so-and-so crossed me. Yep. Yep. Oh my goodness. What was funny was I was like, nah, it'd be out of place. But I kept thinking of just taking like a picture of Allen Iverson crossing Michael Jordan, like crossover. But I was like, okay, nah, we're gonna leave it out. But yeah. But yeah, when we, oh, so cross me, double cross me. What saying we use the same sort of terminology today.
I like the different ways that can be used, because in looking at the celebration of Passover, it often comes to mind passing over from where you were onto where Elohim wants you to be.
All praises. All praises. All praises. All praises.
We also see with Abraham, like one of the first instances of his name changing. He's crossing over into something. He's going from one state to the next state. So it's interesting that he is a descendant of Abar or Eber, and that is portrayed or done with his actual name or title or function. And I think it's funny that Abar is like the opposite of what we was looking at last week, or Arab. That's so funny to me.
All praises. But yeah, so like we pass through parts of a covenant, right? To pass over, to cross over, pass over, march over, to go over, right? To be a passerby, to immigrate, to leave one's territory, to be alienated, to pass into other hands. Now, notice how all of this is all, we see it like you were just saying. It's all like he's living this out, what it means to be a Hebrew. He's living this out. The Father is leading him, and he's living this out. Yep, for Hebrew. Yep. All right, so, and then just that last one right there, to cause to pass by or beyond or under, to let pass by. So is it something you're gonna you're gonna have to pass? All right, so we told me, I agree side. So what is a Hebrew? So Genesis 12:1, it says, now Yahuwah had said unto Abram, get you, or Lekh Lekah, out of your country and from your kindred and from your father's house unto a land that I'll show you. Alienate, immigrate, okay? And I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless you and curse him that curses you. And in you shall all families of the earth be blessed. So Abram departed as Yahuwah had spoken unto him, obedience. And Lot went with him, and Abram was 75 years old when he departed out of Haran. So he was in a place called Haran. He departed out of Haran, and just at a bird's eye glance, the word Haran is H2771. Haran, and it means something parched, dry land, very high. It's a very high place. All right. He does have a brother named Haran, but these are actually two different words. One starts with hey, and then one starts with het, but they put it as H in both, as in the English. Yeah. Yeah, gotcha. Yep. But yeah, a parched, dry place, dry land. Something about this is a waterless place, desert place. And he told him to depart out of that. And then verse 5, it says, and Abram took Sarai, his woman, or his Isha, his wife, and Lot, his brother's son, and all their substance they had gathered, and the souls that they had gotten in Haran, and they went forth to go into the land of Canaan, and into the land of Canaan they came. So now they leave, or they depart out of the dry place, and they're going into the land of Canaan. Canaan, H3667, humiliated, to merchant, to traffic. From the root, H3665, kana, to bend the knee, to stoop down, to be humbled, to be put in subjection, to humble oneself. So this is what the land of Canaan, the root word of Canaan, is to humble. This is the same word, kana, is the same word that we see we're commanded to do during Day of Atonement. And you shall afflict your souls, same word. So something about this place that he's taking them from, something about this place that he's taking them to, and it's something that, again, remember he said, I'm going to show you to this land, take you to this place that I will show you. What is he showing him with where he's going? Verse 6, and Abram passed through, so he departed, then he came to, now he's passing through. That word for pass through is the same word, abar, for Hebrew, the land unto a place of Shechem. Now the word Shechem or Shechem, H7927, it's a ridge from the root H7926. Shechem, the neck, between the shoulders, a place of burdens. Unto the plain of Moreh, H4176. Moreh, the same as H4175, an archer, also a teacher or teaching. Also the early rains, CH3384, Yara, which is the root word for, what's that the root word for? For Torah. So this same word, Yara, same root word for Torah, which is to hit the mark, hit the target, aim as an archer. And the same as, or they said also see Yoreh, H3138, which is, Yoreh is like light rain. So, and the Canaanite was then in the land. So now he done took him to this land, and now he's here, but these Canaanites are there. So he's just literally passing through. That's it. And Yahuwah appeared unto Abram and said, unto your seed I will give this land. And there built he an altar unto Yahuwah, who appeared unto him. And he removed from thence unto a mountain on the east of Bethel or Bethel, literally the house of El or the house of Elua, Elohim. And he pitched his tent, having Bethel or the house of El on the west, and Ai, H5857, a ruin as if overturned from H 5753 to crook, to do amiss, to make crooked, to commit iniquity, to pervert, or do wickedly on the east. And there he built an altar unto Yahuwah and called upon the name of Yahuwah. And Avram journeyed, going on still toward the Negev, which Negev is another word for basically going to the south, going southward. So when we look at all of these places, we see that there is perhaps a message that Yahuwah is showing us about what he is doing in Abram. The more we look at this parsha, the more we will dig into this. But for now, we see that Elohim has arranged a blessing for Abram, but there are some things that he must do to obtain it. Keep in mind, he is instructed to go himself from his country and family to a land that he will be shown. Notice the land that Elohim shows him. In his obedience in doing this, he will be blessed. So what is Elohim showing him about these places? Is there something that we can learn about Abram's calling through these specific places that Elohim directed him to? So notice he departed from Haran. He left the dry place. Then he went forth into Canaan, humility. Then he passed through Shechem, a place of carrying burdens, unto Moreh, becoming a teacher or teaching, a place of teaching. Then he pitched his tent between Bethel, the house of El, and Ai, crooked iniquity. So literally he's in between a place, and on one side, all that is quote unquote crooked, iniquity, doers of evil, wickedness. And on the other side is the house of El. And you ain't gonna get to the house of El without passing Abram first. Just visualizing this. Khan. It's Khan. Then he journeyed southward into the Negev. Khan. And if you look at verse 6, notice what happens. It says, after you see this Moreh, right? He goes to Moreh. It says, and the Canaanite was then in the land. So it's something that the Canaanites they should be looking at how he's moving and saying, are we worthy of being in this land? What are our ways like?
Because that last part you have when you in there, he built an altar to Yahuwah and called upon his name. But you see the definition in ruin, overturned, crooked, committed iniquity. So call the name of Elohim so he can remove or almost like a mediator, is that what you're trying to get at, to tell the people about iniquity, or even for us today, like we can read the story of Abram and be able like, oh, okay, it can be able to be a witness, is what I'm saying. He's like a witness to teach us not to commit iniquity and transgression because he was obedient to Yahuwah. So yeah, all of that, what you're pointing out, is coming out of the definition of Hebrew, of abar, the root word.
So we looked at abar, and now we see that in verse 6 that he crosses over into this place, but then actually looking at the places where he sent, because again, remember, Elohim said, come to the place that I'm gonna show you. So the thing is well, why is Elohim taking him to these specific places, and what is he showing him? And why does he want him to come here and say, look at this? Why is he doing it? And then when we look at the meaning of all of these places, we starting to get a deeper level understanding of, whoa, this is a whole message here of what he's telling him, not only what this land is about, but also what he's doing in Abram at that time. This is how the covenant is going to come into fruition.
I was gonna say, yeah, this is because when you take the time to look into the scriptures, as we were saying before, this is the esoteric knowledge within the actual scripts. It's much more than surface level, because as we were talking about previously, somebody else, quote unquote, called on the name of Eloah, of Yahuwah before, but we saw that that kind of calling was a different kind of call. It's literally a perverting, and it's, you know, to his face aggression toward Yahuwah. So he's even showing a difference in between, like the definition is not called, is not up here called, but what we can see through the outcome is that the kind of calling that he was doing is a little bit different. It's got to be a little bit different than what was previously done because of the result. And like you said, it's about what is Yahuwah showing him. He said, it says here, he pitched his tent. That means he took up a dwelling right there in between Tov and Ra'ah.
Mind made up on you, but strategically placed in between the two.
And then, like it says, his choice, what we are able to see outside of that, though his tent was pitched, though his dwelling, like where he stayed at, was between Tov and Ra'ah, he still chose, like his continuous choosing was Yahuwah Eloah. He was choosing to reach out toward and call upon the name, search for, and he was inclined to lean towards the Tov. So he could witness, and that's, and I don't know if this is anything to do with it, like there talks about, you know, other places, like being able to see destruction, but not taking part of it. So he was absolutely able to see what was going on to the east, AI, see the crookedness, see the destruction, see the perversion. He was able to see it. Oh, but I'm going this way. And I'm going to be right here. Like you said, you can't get to the house of Yahuwah, the house of El, without passing by somebody who's going to show you, passing by that teacher, that wisdom that's going to cry out to you like, no, over there, they on some mess. Over here, though, this is clean water. This is Tov over here. And we see in the other scriptures, he was known to do that. Like people will come by, we see his character. He gonna feed you. He gonna talk to you about the Most High, and then he gonna send you on your way. But he gonna tell you about who, you know, about that, about the one you serve, the one who made you. He gonna tell you about him before you go. He's hospitable, like, you know. So I just, yeah. I just thought that was significant too. Just that calling, a different kind of calling out is what we see.
Okay. So when we look at all of these, no, that's what I did. No, it's not. Okay. This is still, sorry. Now I just want to finally switch over. Oh, I'm sorry, y'all. I skipped it. Go back. There we go. All right, so what is Elohim showing him about these places? So could it be that Elohim is causing him to depart out of the dry, parched land to a place of humility where he will pass through carrying a burden or a yoke? And then you got to ask yourself the question, what burden or what yoke could this possibly be? Where he would be as an archer or one that hits the mark. You got to ask yourself the question, well, what is the mark or what is the target? And a teacher before those that dwell in the land. In doing this, Abram will stand between the house of El and those that are crooked or workers of iniquity. So now you can take a look at verse 3 in light of all of this, where it says, and I will bless them that bless you and curse them that curse you. And in you all families of the earth shall be blessed.
If y'all don't mind me interjecting, that sounds like a mediator, someone who stands between good and evil, tries to rectify issues.
Absolutely. Khan, intercessor, mediator, or go-between. And we're going to see that this is going to be a recurring theme in his life. All praises. So a deeper look at Abram and Yahuwah's plan. So could it be that this arrangement or this covenant that Elohim is making with Abram will stand between the wicked and those that can enter into the house of Elohim or Beit El? Could it be that Abram will serve as one that stands in the gap between those that are brought into the Father's house and those who cannot? So basically, the grammar is all off in that. What I'm trying to say is it possible that he is a symbol of a go-between or a mediator between those that can make it into the Father's house or who can't, right?
I dare say he was even a symbol of a Mashiach.
All praises. That's what we
Not the, sacrifice for all sins, but just that, a doorway to be able to get introduced to your allure so that you can be groomed into someone to be accepted by him.
Now, keep in mind how we've been looking at, we brought out last week. I started with, this is something that's open to the whole world, but every generation is getting closer. The door is getting closed more and more, and you're going to start seeing it's narrowing in, getting more specific. So excellent point. I just keep in mind how much you're going to see that Abram is 100% a pattern of everything that Mashiach goes through. And it's because of all of this that when we really start looking at Mashiach, you're going to start seeing that there are certain things that Mashiach is specifically having to do to be a fulfillment of this greater cause. Like it's not I think we looked at it in the last Torah portion. Like, no, it wasn't just happenstance that he's in the wilderness for 40 days and 40 nights. Then you're looking at the flood, and the flood is for 40 days and 40, like, no. And then they was in the wilderness for 40 years. And like, no, he's walking this out to try to finally get this right. So yeah, all praises.
You know what I mean? From what's going on in our lives. So reading this makes me think, okay, let me think about where I am, because the Father could be like, I told you, oh, Father, please I'm giving you direction. Search, see, pay attention. If you pay attention, you're going to be able to see what I'm trying to show you,
So keep in mind what we saw in the last parsha about the generations and the opportunity that is presented in them. So now we're going to go to Luke 16:19 and just keep all of that in mind. And you're going to see how the significance of how Abraham is in this story and this gap that can't be crossed and all of this stuff. All praises. So Luke 16:19, and there was a certain rich man which was clothed in purple and fine linen and fared sumptuously every day. Now, we already said we getting ahead of ourselves a little bit because we haven't really peeled back that layer of Abram yet, but hospitality. This is like a core character trait that, like, if you're going to be of the fathers, it's one of them things. Like, he looking for it. All praises. That part. That part. Yeah, that part. All praises. So, and there was a certain beggar named Lazarus, or Lazarus, which was laid at his gate full of sores, and desiring to be fed with the crumbs which fell from the rich man's table. Moreover, the dogs came and licked his sores. And it came to pass that the beggar died and was carried by the angels or messengers unto Abraham's bosom. The rich man also died, which was buried. Now, mind you, who is telling this story? Mashiach himself is telling you this story. So this should tell you that he don't have no problem letting you know. Oh, nah. Abram is the ticket, right? You might want to look at his ways, and you might want to look at how I'm walking in his ways and realize that we're going to see one is greater than Abram is here. All praises. And it came to pass that the beggar died and was carried away by the angels unto Abraham's bosom. The rich man also died and was buried. And in Sheol he lifted up his eyes, being in torments, and sees Abraham afar off and Eleazar in his bosom. And he cried and said, Father Abraham. So that means that he's a Hebrew, right? Have mercy on me and send Eleazar that he may dip the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue, for I am tormented in this flame. Now keep in mind, where did Abram cross out of? Where did he leave out of? Haran, a very hot, dry, parched land. This man might not have been willing to leave up out of that, and that's why he's stuck where he at. He wasn't willing to cross over and make that trip or that journey. But he's a Hebrew. But he's not a Hebrew. But Abram said, Son, remember that you in your lifetime received your told things, and likewise Eleazar evil things. But now he is comforted, and you are tormented. And beside all this, between us and you, so there's something between, there is a great gulf fixed, so that they which would pass from hence to you cannot. The door has been closed. It can't be crossed over now. Neither can they pass to us that would come from thence. A place that must be passed over or crossed over if you would enter into the house of Elohim. Then he said, I pray you, therefore, Father, that you would send him to my father's house. Abram had to go himself from what? His father's house. All praises. All praises. For I have 5 brethren, that he may testify unto them, lest they also come into this place of torment. Abraham said unto him, they have Moses and the prophets. Let them hear them. Now keep in mind, Abram was willing to obey the voice of Yahuwah. Are they willing to obey the voice of Yahuwah?
It was Yahuwah's intervention that allowed Abram to recognize the idol falling. It wasn't happenstance. That was Yahuwah showing up. If Abram was going to choose to acknowledge him, and he shows up in the lives of many, or his ministering ruachs do, to give us the opportunity to acknowledge him, or like Sis had brought out earlier, be too distracted to even notice that he's speaking to.
I was just saying that's interesting because Abram didn't have Moses and the prophets, yet he was still able to do. So, in other words, Abram saying, in this instance, to me, but right, no, you got plenty. Like you got plenty, because he could have left it at, no, I've written. You got me. He could have said that. No, he said, you even got the ones that came after me. You got Moses and the prophet.
How much even more for us now that Mashiach?
Come on. You got plenty. And the internet, right? Look.
If you choose it for the toll, like you got access.
Mm. Said, verse 30, it said, and he said, nay, Father Abraham, or no, that ain't gonna work. But if one went out unto them from the dead, they will repent. Tried it. Still didn't work. Mm.
Because wasn't it the prophets that was doing stuff with the dead too?
Mm.
Didn't Elijah and Elisha revive people? So in other words, it's not enough. No, then it's not going to be enough. Then there's nothing, because what you asking for has already been done.
31.
I'll say like, man, verse 19, the rich man was in purple and fine linen. Isn't that the clothing of righteous, those who endure to the end? So it's all his what was it? His reward was on earth. Like he decided to, fine into the rich things, and but I'll be the beggar. His reward is which it's just what's more important, to be able to, to get the reward on earth or to get the reward after. Once you pass over, once you die, like that's deep right there, because now he's tormented and he can't even, what was it for? What was the purpose? Now you can't even enjoy what you had, what you thought you was so told, the beggar isn't, he's in eternal life.
Like you have plenty. You could have in that life stored up for yourself riches in the Shemayim by helping the one who's right outside your doorstep, right outside your gate, right outside your gate. They have to go far off into Africa to no charity.
Right. Excellent point. Con.
See, you had somebody right there in your gate who you could have helped, and you did not. You had the clothing and the semblances of abundance. Go ahead.
How many times do we do that though? Like, oh, I'm gonna give to the charity or whatever, but then so the Father is placing people in front of your face, and you don't even pay them no mind. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm doing. Oh, Father, thank you. I gave this money to the charity case, like, please hear my prayers. But he like, okay, but okay, but yeah, but it's like, okay, but hold on, wait a minute. I got people I'm placing this person in front of you. What about him? What about her? Like, come on.
Steak that you clothed me. I was hungry, you fed me. Come on. This is crossing over, right? From that which is carnal and fleshly into that which is heavenly and spiritual. Says verse 31, and he said unto him, if they heard not Moses and the prophets, neither will they be persuaded, though one arose from the dead. If they don't hear that, then even it doesn't matter what will happen. They won't listen to that either. Trust me. Because this is like, really look at the significance of what he just said. That one rising from the dead is less weighty than Moses and the prophets. Come on.
He talked about himself.
Where you
excellent point. I'm looking at Abraham. I'm looking at Abraham. Yeah.
I couldn't hear it.
Say that one more time, Ak.
I couldn't hear the point.
Our apologies.
My bad. I didn't have to.
She needed
I
to
didn't
play a
have the
lot.
talking stick.
She needed to turn it off for the people in the back.
All praises.
No, the point was the person who, Mashiach is telling this story and he's talking about himself. If they didn't hear Moshe and the prophets, they're not going to hear the one that rose from the dead. They're not going to hear me. Ain't nothing going to sway them because Moses and the prophets been saying the same thing that he came through talking about, but centuries, millennia even before. And he ain't saying nothing different than what Moshe and the prophets were saying. So if the people would not listen to Moshe and the prophets in the first place, they definitely not going to hear Mashiach. And like I said, like you just said, the way he putting it is like the one who rose from the dead is much less significant than the ones that came before him. That's the way it seemed like to me. Like he's putting him like, nah, it don't even matter what the dead one saying, what the one who rose from the dead saying.
The miracle is less weighty than the actual one who is doing the miracles.
That part.
Like this is the living word of Alua. This is just raising a miracle or just raising somebody from the dead. Like this is what comes along with that. But this is not like, no, you got the words that are coming straight from the mouth of the creator.
Yeah, a sign isn't gonna change the heart of a man, woman, or child. Like, yeah, we often want to testify, like, yeah, prove it. He's already proven it. We just don't see it because of our choice of value system. Like you said, where your treasure is, there will your meditations be. There will your heart be. What you value, their value ain't in the lessons that come from Moshe and the prophets, nor the Messiah. So it don't matter how many signs you show them.
All praises. So perhaps there's something regarding hospitality that the Mashiach is showing us as it pertains to this man's character and the life he lived versus Abraham's character and the life he lived. But we'll circle back to this towards the latter part of this parsha. Not today though. But could it be a glimpse of what Mashiach would stand for as a go-between to the Father's house? See John 14, 1-6, right? He's pitching his tent as a go-between. Hey, I'm the door. There ain't no man making it to the Father except but by going through me. That's it. But you have to adhere and yield yourself to what this covenant is. And accept what the power play is that the Father is putting down for you on your behalf. But if you turn away from it, then hey, if you think you're gonna get into the Father's house but through any other way, you a thief and a robber. And all you got to do is read Torah about thieves and robbers that come in the middle of the night. What happens to them? And there is no bloodshed on your hands, right? It's a righteous judgment at that point because you don't belong in here. So what is a Hebrew? So last week we talked about how Yahuwah qualified the priest. What qualifies the children of the covenant that Elohim is making with Abram, right? What qualifies a Hebrew, right? That's what we've been looking at. What are you willing to cross from into? What is your crossing over that qualifies you as a legitimate Hebrew? It's not just going to be about what seed you come from, which we're going to see. Matthew 3:1, it says, in those days, Yehukanan the Mercer preaching in the wilderness of Yehuda and saying, repent you, for the kingdom of Yahuwah is at hand. Hey, yo, the house of Elohim is coming. You're either going to be in or out. But if you're going to get in, you need to repent. For this is he that was spoken of by the prophet Isaiah, saying, a voice of one crying in the wilderness, prepare you the way of Yahuwah and make his path straight. And the same Yehukanah had his raiment of camel's hair and a leather belt about his loins, and his food was locusts and wild honey. Then went out to him Jerusalem and all of Yehuda and all the region round about the, Jordan or Jordan, and were immersed of him in the Jordan, confessing their sins. But when he saw many of the Parshim and the Sadakim, or the Pharisees and Sadducees, come to his immersion, he said unto them, now mind you, these Pharisees and Sadducees are what? Sons of Abraham, right? O generation of vipers, who has warned you to flee from the wrath to come? Bring forth therefore fruits of repentance, and think not to say within yourselves, we have Abraham to our father. For I say unto you, that Yah is able of these stones to raise up children unto Abraham. And now also the axe is laid at the root of the trees. So we're gonna see what the qualifier is, right? It's not gonna be just we Israel. It don't quite work that way. Therefore, every tree which brings not forth told fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire. I indeed immerse you with water unto repentance, but he that comes after me is mightier than I, whose shoes I am not worthy to bear. He shall immerse you with the Ruach HaKodesh and with fire, whose fan is in his hand. He will thoroughly purge his floor and gather his wheat into the garner, but he will burn up the chaff with unquenchable fire. So if you want to stay in a dry place, in a burnt up land, have at it.
Brother teacher, that analogy is like it's hitting deep with the way you brought forth this lesson. I really appreciate it.
All praises to the
Like,
King.
because the chaff, it ain't the fruit.
Huh.
The wheat's the fruit. The chaff ain't got no benefit. You know how fast it burns up once that fire licks it? Whew. And we got the choice to be one or the other, depending on what we take in. We can look like the fruit until the separation happens.
All praises. What is a Hebrew? John 8:31. So Yahusha said to those Yahudim who believed him, if you stay in my word, you are truly my taught ones, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. They answer him, we are the seed of Abraham, and we have been servants to no one at any time. Now, Canaan was a place of humility, of servitude, of bending down to, but they telling you they have been servants to no one at no time. How do you say you shall become free? Yahusha answered them, truly, truly, I say to you, everyone doing sin is a servant of sin, and the servant does not stay in the house forever. A son stays forever. If then the son makes you free, you shall be free indeed. I know that you are the seed of Abraham, but you seek to kill me because my word has no place in you. I speak that I have seen with my father, and you do what you have heard from your father. And he ain't talking about Abraham. They answered and said to him, Abraham is our father. And Yahusha said to them, if you were Abraham's children, you would do the works of Abraham. Just like what we were saying earlier, right? But now you seek to kill me, a man who has spoken to you the truth, which I heard from Elohim. Abraham did not do this. You do the works of your father. Then they said to him, we were not born of horn. We have one father, Elohim. And Yahusha said to them, if Elohim were your father, you would love me, for I came forth from Elohim and am here. For I have not come of myself, but he sent me. Why do you not know what I say? Because you are unable to hear my word. Keep in mind, what did Terah, when he tried to tell Terah, Terah got mad with him. You are of your father the devil, and the desires of your father you wish to do. He was a murderer from the beginning and has not stood in the truth because there is no truth in him. When he speaks the lie, he speaks of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it. And because I speak the truth, you do not believe me. Who of you proves me wrong concerning sin? And if I speak the truth, why do you not believe me? When he who is of Elohim hears the words of Elohim. What did Abraham just tell the rich man? Therefore, you do not hear because you are not of Elohim.
Bro, that hits real good right there. And the thing is, I mean, this is just confirmation because earlier today in the Sabbath school, while they was running on one thing, talking about, or they was talking about tempting of the Father, and they brought up John 10, what's that, John 10, 30 through 33, I believe, 30 through 34, something like that. But I'm like, y'all forgot the first. I said the main thing y'all keep forgetting is verses 25 up to 29. I'm like, I said that clearly tells you that they're not gonna hear it because they don't have understanding. They're not gonna hear him. He's telling them ahead of time, you're not gonna understand anything I'm going to tell you because you don't want to hear it.
I mean, the hardened heart is it's a real situation, and it's a real state to be in. I just pray that let that not be any of us. Like, but yeah, the hardened heart is it. I mean, we see it even with Pharaoh later on, Khan. That's the rich man. What he's going through, like, oh snap, like he get it on the other side.
I did that in your name. Will you tell me I can't enter? What about this? And what about that? All that I did. Depart from me. I never knew you. I don't know you. You worker of iniquity. So I feel like self-evaluation is really going to help us here because a lot of us think that we're told when we're not.
Spot on. But yeah, all praises. So Abram is told to remove himself from his country, from his kindred, and from his father's house, and told to journey to the place that Yahuwah would show him. This is actually also a picture of the spiritual journey that we are taking on when we are called upon by Yahuwah. This goes to the point that Ak was just bringing out. How many of us is going to be willing to make that journey? Some of us hear the call and say, I got to go bury my father. I got to go tend to my field. I got to go.
That's significant too, because that circles it right back around to how you began. And I think I don't know, were we talking about this at one point a while ago or something like that? But it's just coming back to my mind now. The difference, like you were saying, about the patriarchs of old. The special thing about them is nothing no less special within us now. The difference being is that they chose, is what their choice was.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why many are called, but few are chosen, is because the ones who don't get chosen don't answer the call.
Mm-hmm. They don't choose.
It's not because they were not called.
Mm-hmm.
It's not because they were not, there was nothing required of them. There absolutely is the requirement on people now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the difference. It's not like the door is not open unto you.
Mm-hmm.
You're not walking through the door. You're not fulfilling the requirement. You're not choosing to answer the call. Mm-hmm. And the ones of old, patriarchs of old, they chose to answer that call, to cross into what they needed to cross over to, and to stand in the gap, how they were required to stand in the gap from, Noah on to whoever else,
Mm-hmm.
Seth, all of that.
Mm-hmm. All praises. So the very first thing that we notice is that we are to become set apart. This suggests what the word implies. We have to create separation between what we have been familiar with and going to a place where Yahuwah is leading us. So Yahuwah sets Abram apart, and he is now going on the path that Yahuwah is showing him. It is at this point that Abram is ready to receive a promise of blessing. The next thing we see is Abram's obedience. Abram departed as Yahuwah has spoken to him. Here comes the next part of our walk spiritually. Yahuwah may call you, but there will also be others who will see and have faith, and they will follow. We see that Abram takes Sarai, Lot, and all of his servants and cattle with him. So through a promise Yahuwah makes with one, others may receive the benefits of the promise or go on the journey as well based on their faith. So faith is always going to be the test. And the decision is always going to be yours, but the door is open now. So if you adhere or latch on to the one who is propping the door open, then hey, you can come right on through as well. Keep in mind what he said to Abram. Through you, all nations will be blessed. But the stipulation is those that bless you will be blessed, and those that curse you are going to be cursed.
I'm sorry. I was just thinking about it because looking at the person or the actual body of Abraham, I'm certain, like we see that through his story, right? But then we look at the symbol also, or the representation, what he represents. Those who stand in of your lineage doing what because that requirement again, it's not because nobody was called. There was many people called, and there's very few chosen because few answer the call. Those who are following after him of his lineage in his footsteps, doing what he did. We see that now. And just to see how that plays out and how it just applies now. I'll bless those that bless you, and I'm gonna curse those that curse you. Not just the person, because if I curse Abraham, I wouldn't say that now, seriously. Like, no, it's not that. It's like the one who's supposed to be standing in the gap for you. If you ain't gonna bless that one, that's like speaking against that's like blasphemy. It's like speaking against the Holy Spirit. Not ain't nobody gonna stand in the gap for it. It just saying you ain't talking right. You ain't, that you that part.
For the great judgment, the dreaded judgment. It's not that Yahuwah is gonna be just sitting there angry at you. It's like, no, I gave you more than enough mercy and more than enough time to choose to get it together. And if you weren't taught, I put enough within your reach for you to be able to learn what's acceptable and what's not. But at this point, I got no choice but to rule righteously. And because the equation of your life adds up in the negative, this is what you got coming. He is more than what we call fair.
I don't want to, so I don't like it. So you got to ask yourself why does Yahuwah choose Abram? Is there something about Abram that we should learn so that we can apply it to our lives? And that's kind of been what the gist of the lesson has been, right? So I'm gonna skim over this slide here because we kind of hit on it and talked about it. But basically his obedience, right? When we're introduced to Abram, we see that he leaves everything that he knows behind to go to an unknown place that Elohim will show him. And then we also know that this is reminiscent of something else that we are taught by Yahusha, right? You can see it in Luke 9:57 through 62. But this is what we just brought up a second ago. Oh, I got to go do this. I got to go do that, and not answering the call when the call goes out. right? But Mashiach says in verse 62, no one having put his hand to the plow and looking back is fit for the kingdom of Elohim. So that pretty much sums that up, right? I'll pray. So now I want us to see a pattern here. This is the same obedience to Yahuwah's voice that we have witnessed to some degree with others before him, Abel, Enoch, and Noah. With Abram, we see that it wasn't just talk, but that he was willing to walk it out. It was the same faith that was spoken of by the writer of the book of Hebrews. All right, so we know this segment here. I'm gonna kind of speed through this segment here too, because there is a certain point that I want to get to before dragging it out too long. But faith, right? We know faith is everything in this walk, and we see Abram at this point walking in it, right? Okay. Highlighting at verse 8, by belief, Avram, when he was called to go out into a place which he should after receive for an inheritance, obeyed. So faith is what? Linked to that obedience to the call. And he went out not knowing where he went. By belief or faith, he sojourned in a land of promise as a stranger, dwelling in tents with Isaac and Jacob, the heirs with him of the same promise. For he was looking for the city having foundations, whose builder and maker is Elohim.
Briefly, it's so deep that he went out and dwelled in the land of promise before the promise even came to pass.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
something to think about.
Mm-hmm. All praises. All praises. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Khan. I mean, like you said, he died not seeing it in the physical realm. All praises. All right, so in Hebrews, the author takes the time to portray Abram as an example of faith to his modern day believers. Abram, for him, the writer, is not a person that has faith because of what he could physically obtain from Elohim, but instead he is portrayed as one that had a greater faith in the promise of Elohim, which was to be received in a very distant future, a kingdom from heaven or a kingdom from Elohim. As a matter of fact, we see the same thought reflected in the teachings of Yahusha. Matthew 6:19, we glossed over it earlier. Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal, but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven where neither moth nor rust destroys and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart shall be also. And again, in Matthew 7, we read, therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and does them shall be like a wise man who built his house on a rock, and the rain came down and the floods came and the winds blew and beat on that house, and it did not fall, for it was founded on the rock. And everyone who hears these words of mine and does not do them shall be like a foolish man who built his house on sand. And the rain came down and the floods came and the winds blew and they beat on that house and it fell, and great was its fall. So now we're gonna get into the toe part, and we're gonna kind of ride this on out. But we'll finish out chapter 12. A further test of faith, right? Because wait, there's more. Like now you see that he's leveling up. He's willing to take that step. And now, okay, so you did that and was successful with that. Let's see how far you're willing to go with this. And keep noticing that every time that he passes one of these tests, you're going to see that the reward increases. He's leveling up. But just keep that in mind. So notice that while the previous partio showed us how through disobedience, many were scattered or dispersed from a land, in this partial, we're seeing how through obedience, a land is being given. The continuation or building upon of the covenant presented to Noah and his sons is now being presented to Abram in the next generation. So Genesis chapter 12, verse 10. And there was a famine in the land, and Avram went down into Egypt or Mizraim to sojourn there, for the famine was grievous in the land. And it came to pass, when he was come near to enter into Egypt or Mizraim, that he said unto Sarai his wife, Behold now, I know that you are a fair woman to look upon. Therefore it shall come to pass, when the Egyptians shall see you, that they shall say, This is his woman, and they will kill me, but they will save you alive. Say, I pray you, you are my sister, that it may be well with me for your sake, and that my soul shall live because of you. And it came to pass that when Abram was come into Egypt, the Egyptians beheld the woman, that she was very fair. The princes also of Pharaoh saw her, and commended her before Pharaoh. And the woman was taken into Pharaoh's house, and he entreated Abram well for her sake. And he had sheep and oxen and donkeys and men servants and maid servants and she donkeys and camels. And Yahuwah plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. And Pharaoh called Abram and said, What is this that you have done unto me? Why did you not tell me that she was your woman? Why said you, she is my sister? So I might have taken her to me to be my woman. Now therefore, behold your woman, take her and go your way. And Pharaoh commanded his men concerning him, and they sent him away, his wife or his woman, and all that he had. Now, keep in mind that Abram is he pitched his tent between what? The house of El and crookedness, perversion, wickedness. All right. And now notice that Pharaoh got to go through him to get things right.
Look at the narcissistic blame shift. You know, you know well that it wouldn't have mattered to you if you knew that was his woman. Now you want to play innocent. You wouldn't judge you if you weren't doing something wrong. If you didn't already have twisted reasoning, probably already a track record of doing wrong.
We're gonna dig a little bit into that here in a second. All praises. There we go. So a further test of faith. So how did Abram know what the Egyptians would do? Because remember, he's afraid for a reason, right? This is like, is this just his imagination, or does he have a legitimate reason of why he's afraid? When we go in this land, they're going to kill me, and they're going to take you and have their way with you and do whatever they please. And why does he tell Sarai to tell them this? So I've heard it spun so many ways, right? Oh, he was being selfish. He would even send his woman into the line of fire for not really understanding and realizing and understanding that this was the only way for them to survive this scenario. Like, no, he's preserving not only himself, but everything with this that he's doing here. But we'll be able to get a little bit more of context for it when we, take a look at it. And then also, get a little more understanding about Abram's character. So we can get a glimpse of this from the Dead Sea Scrolls. All right. So there was a scroll that was found in the Dead Sea Scrolls called the Tales of the Patriarchs. Is from the first cave. It's 1Q Abjin, or 1 Capjin, as I call it. And that's just basically saying that it came from cave 1. It's an apocalyptic writing, and it's dealing with Genesis. So that's how they titled it. But yeah, 1 Capjin is where you'll be able to find this, or you can look up the Tales of the Patriarchs, but we're going to read it. So it says, now, it's from the Dead Sea Scrolls. These was legitimate scrolls that they found thousands of years later. So some of the areas you're going to see where it's going to have some missing information. That's just because that part of the scroll was missing. But we'll be able to put it together. This one is pretty well preserved. So it says, the hero of the story is now Abraham. This is their header going into it. The portion apparently concerns the building of the altar at Bethel. which is what we just read. Compare that to Genesis 12, 1 through 7. All right. So column 20, verse 6, it says, and there I built the altar and called there upon the name of Elohim. And I said, you are indeed the eternal Elohim or Elua for me. Previously, I had not reached the holy mountain. So I journeyed to blank, and I continued traveling to the south, the Negev, we just read about that, until I reached Hebron, though Hebron had not yet to be built. And I lived there for 2 years, blank. Now we get to the point where we are now with the famine. Now there was a famine in all that land, but I heard that in Egypt there was grain. So I journeyed to enter the land of Egypt. And I reached the Carmine River, one of the branches of the Nile. Part is missing. Until this point, we were still within our own land. But now I crossed the 7 branches of this river that blank. Now we had crossed our land and entered the land of the children of Ham or Ham, the land of Egypt. I'm sorry, skip the slide. I gotta go back and it's taking forever to load it because of the time. Okay, so now he goes into the land, and now we're gonna find out why he does what he does and why he tells her what he tells him. It says Abram had a dream the night Abram had a dream the night of my entry into the land of Egypt. In my dream, I saw a cedar tree and a date palm growing from a single root. So these two are tied and connected together. Then people came intending to cut down and uproot the cedar, thereby to leave the date palm by itself. The date palm, however, objected and said, do not cut the cedar down, for the two of us grow from but a single root. So the cedar was spared because of the date palm and was not cut down. So now just keep in mind, a cedar is a tall and strong, it's a strong tree. A date palm is a beautiful tree. Bearing fruit, right? All right. Abraham relates the dream to his wife Sarai and interprets his meaning. So it says, then I started from my sleep while it was still night and said to Sarai, my wife, I have had a dream and now am fearful because of it. She replied, tell me your dream so I may understand. So I began to explain it to her, and I also explained its significance. I said, part is missing, men will come intending to kill me while sparing you. Notwithstanding, this is the kindness that you can do for me. In every place where we shall go, say concerning me, he is my brother. Thus I may live because of you, and my life be spared owing to you. Part is missing. They will attempt to separate us and to kill me. I wonder if the same plays, if they put down the same play today, to separate the east from the Isha, cut down the strength, and then exploit the beauty. I wonder if I just wonder. But okay. But these two come from the same root, and there's something about, all right, yeah. Okay. Then Sarai wept towards my words that night. And part is missing. And the Pharaoh of Zoan, part is missing. Sarai no longer wanted to go to Zoan with me, for she was exceedingly afraid lest any man attached to Pharaoh of Zoan should see her. So now we're going to have to operate in some faith, right? There's going to have to be some trust here in what Alua has showed us, right? Nevertheless, after 5 years had passed, okay, yeah, I'm making sure I'm in the right place. But yeah, nevertheless, after 5 years had passed, there came 3 men, counselors from the Egyptian court and advisors of the Pharaoh of Zoan. They came having heard my words and my wife and kept plying me with many gifts. They asked me for knowledge of Tobness, wisdom and righteousness. So I read to them the book of the words of Enoch. Blank. In the famine that the book of the words of Enoch, with much eating and drinking, wine. Pharaoh's advisors returned to him, including one named Hyrcanos, who described Sarai's wondrous beauty in a poem. Now, they're getting an opportunity to see this righteous ways of Elohim, and we'll see whether or not they're gonna walk through the door or if they're gonna close it. This is what they got to say about Sarai. She must have been a 10 out of 10, stone cold 10. How splendid and beautiful is the aspect of her face, and how blank, and how supple is the hair of her head. How lovely are her eyes, how pleasant her nose, and her radiance of her face. How shapely is her, how gorgeous are her fairness. Her arms, how comely. Her hands show perfect. How lovely is every aspect of her hands. How exquisite are her palms. How long and delicate are her fingers. Y'all was doing some for real staring. Some real looking.
So you come and pay this man to expound on righteousness so that you can gorge your flesh on his wife.
There we go.
Meanwhile, Elohim's looking to see if you're gonna walk through the door and you ain't thinking twice about the door.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Her feet, how attractive. How perfect are her thighs. Neither virgins nor brides enter in the bridal chamber exceed her charms. Over all women is her beauty supreme, her loveliness far above them all. Yet with all this comeliness, she possesses great wisdom, and all that she has is beautiful. Time. So when the king heard Hyrcanos' words and all those of his companions, for the 3 of them spoke of one accord, he desired her very much. Oh, I gotta see this. So he sent immediately and had her brought to him. He saw her and was amazed at her beauty. Thereupon he took her as his wife and sought to kill me. But Sarai said to the king, he is my brother. Thus she benefited me, and I was spared. I, Abram, by her good graces, and not killed. Then I wept copiously. Waterworks, pouring out the tears. I, Abram, both I and Lot, my nephew. That night when Sarai was taken from me by force. That night I prayed, entreating and seeking mercy. And anguish, tears running down my cheeks, I said, blessed are you, O Elohim Most High, eternal Alua. For you are Adonai and master over all. Over all the kings of the earth, you are master or Adonai, to work justice among them. And now I seek redress, O Yahuwah, against the Pharaoh of Zoan, king of Egypt, for my wife has been taken from me by force. Render me a verdict against him and display your mighty hand against him and all his house. May he not be empowered this night to defile my wife. Thus they may know you, O my Adonai, that you are Adonai over all the kings of the earth. So what is this about?
Come on.
Mm,
Come on.
mm. So going into Egypt. Oh, okay. All right. We're going to leave that there.
Come on.
So I wept and spoke to none.
And you asked the question, why did Yahuwah choose Abraham? Because how many in that situation would have been overcome with darkness and blame Yahuwah?
Mm-hmm.
Although nothing had happened yet, but it looked like something was about to
Ah.
happen. And
Ah.
instead of you seeing Yahuwah for who he truly is, now your vision is skewed and your meditations distorted, and you're not even thinking on his power to be able to protect you and her in that situation, but now you blaming him,
Mm-hmm.
but not Abraham.
Come.
And Yahuwah could be glorified by this because of Abraham's trust and his faith
Mm-hmm.
in Yahuwah.
Come. And yeah, that part. How many? Because we're gonna see later on that Abram he's not no punk by any stretch of the imagination.
Bro, come on, like some servants.
So
We'll talk about 300.
if he want to, if he want to go run up on him, pass me them things, let's get him. Like, no, this is a choice that he's making to trust in his allure. All praises.
That's a show of strength.
Come.
I was saying because of the relationship that he has already with Eloy, he ain't have no because he knows what his LOI is capable of. He ain't have no problem with saying, you know what, I would render righteous judgment.
Mm-hmm.
Not anything less than like, oh, no, she, whatever. No, render righteous judgment. So why would he choose Abraham? Because he had built that relationship with him, and Abraham maybe did, maybe he didn't, see what Elul was trying to do, render judgment on that place, for its wickedness that they continuously do. So through him, through his servant, his one, being able, because of that relationship that they have already, that he already has established with Abraham, able to, you know what? No, this place is wicked. I know you know my character. I will render judgment because you're going to go in and you're going to stand in the gap again. And that standing in the gap, to me right now, just what I'm seeing could be a tov or ra'ah thing, like not for that person, but for the one on either side. You know what I'm saying? If you're going to stand in the gap and be somebody's salvation, usher them in where they could not have on their own, but you're going to stand in the gap and be the person that judgment works through.
Here I say those that are called to stand in the gap have to first go through the process, like I was bringing out in the lesson, of becoming a judge. Like, you can't teach the people the difference between evil and tov if you don't first learn what judgment is, what Yahuwah's judgment is.
Right. And what Aqua was saying before about how he didn't get angry. It just shows the trust part, but also the humility. Like, Father, you can do whatever you want to do, to be honest. And you're right in it. So I thought it was beautiful how he just prayed and wept, seeking mercy. That seeking mercy part. It wasn't, well, hold on, wait a minute. All the stuff I do for you, I'm a righteous man. How dare you? Like you said, being angry. But Father, have mercy. Have mercy, because he knows very well what Yahuwah can do. Yahuwah can do whatever he desires. But instead, Abraham took the mercy part. And then not to mention, can we say hallelujah to the connection and I want to say the relationship between Sarah and Abram, because I'm just saying, that's 5 years. He said 5 years, right, have passed. And then not only that, like the fact that she was obedient to her ish, that says something like, oh no, she's just obeying what he asked. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If you knew this was gonna happen, then why we like? Because the Lord told us to go.
Mm-hmm. Right. So that beautiful. I was gonna say that's a lesson right there. Of, okay. Even if the situation seems scary, regardless, your ish is your head. Respect, obey. Because he's following. I was gonna say as well. This is an example of Abraham. We clearly see that he's obeying Yahuwah. But yeah, disclaimer, make sure the ish is, hallelujah, the ish is obeying Yahuwah. But I'm just saying, like, Abram, the ish, he's obeying Abi Yahuwah. He's giving, Abraham, the ish, he's obeying Yahuwah. He's giving direction to the Isha, and she's being obedient. That's beautiful.
That's true. I was gonna say, just like you were saying earlier, that's that measure of faith. And dare I say, it's not, because at this point we kind of see Abraham's faith had already been built up, not only to where it needed to, not to the end all be all point of his faith, but his faith was already being established.
He's had some personal tests.
This being a test for Sarah, this being that measure of faith for Sarah, and testing their like sis was bringing out, that's that relationship. You know what I'm saying? Like, because absolutely she could, like,
her life wasn't at risk. Like,
they not about to kill me. Like me. He chose me. Like, she absolutely could have been that kind of a woman, but what did Abraham tell her to do? Yo, you would do me a great service. You would be my saving grace if you vouched for me in this manner. Thereby, both of our lives would be saved. You know what I'm saying? And she could have absolutely said, but no. Right. Like, I could be
time.
Right. She could have been green.
Is that a Rolls Royce?
Right. Is that a golden toilet? What is that, a bidet mug? What is that? But yeah, that's absolutely a measure or a testing of her faith, or a trying of her faith, because that's where just me being a wife, and I don't want to speak for my husband or anything like that, but I would like to think, like, yeah, if there was something that happened to me as a wife, like, that might be a thing going on in his mind where some of the anguish is coming from. You know what? So yeah, he gonna pray against the Pharaoh to be not to be unable to violate. Yo, make him incontinent.
Yeah.
Make it limp.
Oh, wait to the next slide. Yep.
Right. Yeah.
Would have messed it up, because Pharaoh's army probably would have folded you, because the Lord's not with you, because you ain't doing what he already told you. You ain't trusting in me.
Yeah, trying to take it into the strength of my own hands, like you said, anger in my Lord. Like, I was gonna help you, but
now I can't get praise in this place, and I can't be esteemed in this place, because you want to take it for yourself.
And so he absolutely had to have the faith, not only in Yahuwah Elohim, but in his wife,
his Isha,
that she was going to follow through with what he said, because he knew what was going on, because of does the Most High do anything and not first warn his servant? Is he going to do anything and not send out that warning first? He sent that warning. This is what's going to happen. This is the interpretation because of the dream that I had. You'll do me a great service if you do this, if you say this, if this is how we operate. So now it's up in the balance. I don't know if she is strong as I am, Abba. I don't know. I just don't know. I'm trusting you, Father. Can you help on that? Whatever help she might need to strengthen her faith, make him not able to do so that she don't have to make that hard decision. So she don't have,
I mean, if she's like looking at that situation, and he said they took her by force, they gonna take her by force. It wouldn't have been it. There's no.
She had that desire.
Yeah.
It don't show no extra wording saying that he had to try and convince her to be faithful. He's like, listen, this do me this favor.
That's why she like, I don't even want to go.
Yeah.
Like, just keep us out. If this is what's on the other side of it, then can't we find another place? But nah, Elohim has already laid the plan out. We got to go here, but also not only do we got to go here, this is gonna happen, and we got to endure
that part. And this ain't related to the lesson, but since we talking about it, it's like a total place to kind of bring it out. Like, he scattered his people all over the earth, knowing that at a certain hour he's gonna wake them up. And of course, not everybody's gonna prove to be weak, but those that are, now he has the opportunity to get glory wherever they are, as long as they're faithful.
All praises. And then we are, I promise, almost done. But I didn't want to not bring this out in this same lesson. But yeah. So what sis was just talking about, we're gonna see how the Father deals.
All praise.
So Elohim answers Abram's prayer, sending an afflicting spirit against Pharaoh. So it says that night, Elohim Most High sent a baneful spirit to smite him and every man of his household, an evil spirit that continued to afflict him and every man of his household. Consequently, he was unable to have conjugal relations with her. Indeed, he did not have intercourse with her, even though she was with him 2 full years. This is how long he is without his Isha. This is how long his Isha is without her Ish. And she's in Pharaoh's house. This is how long they both have to be patient. This is how long she is not turning against her Ish, and then in turn turning against Alua, because it's taking too long. And if he loved me, how come he's weak? Because he's choosing true strength. Come. So like, it really is a lot going on when you looking at the test of these two, and not just these two, but Lot as well, because Lot is sitting there weeping just as much. All praises. At the end of 2 years, the plagues and afflictions grew yet more severe against him and every man of his household. So he sent messengers calling for all the wise men of Egypt, along with all the magicians and healers of Egypt, thinking that perhaps they could cure him and his household of this pestilence. Yet none of the hearers, magicians, and wise men were able to cure him. On the contrary, the spirit afflicted all of them too, so that they fled. Then Hyrcanos came to me, asking me to come and pray for the king and to lay hands upon him and to cure him, for he had seen me in a dream. But Lot replied, my uncle Abram is unable to pray for the king while Sarai, his wife, remains with him. Now go tell the king to send his wife to her husband. Then he will pray for him and he will be cured. When Hyrcanos heard Lot's words, he went and told the king, all these smitings and plagues by which my sovereign, the king, has been smitten and afflicted are because of Sarai, the wife of Abram. Let him return Sarai to Abram, her husband, and this plague will depart from you. That is the spirit causing you the discharges of pus. My father.
You heard.
You heard it. Yeah, it started. The plagues were continually getting worse and worse. So it started giving it a try, and the ship ain't sailing tonight. To now we dealing with some whole discharges, and it's just keep all the way. Yep, getting worse and worse. So he called Khan. So he called me to himself and asked me, "What have you done to me? Because of your wife, Sarai. You told me she is my sister, yet she was actually your wife. I took her as my own wife." Not even seeing the error in this, because you didn't ask if she was down with this. You didn't care, no nothing. It was just that one. Here she is. Take her, go. And if you're not willing to even listen to the woman saying, nah, I don't want to do this, then what would you think? What would you listen to? You're not going to listen to nothing. Take her, go, depart from all the prophecies of Egypt. But first, pray for me and my house that this evil spirit may be exorcised from us. So I prayed for him, that blasphemer, and laid my hands upon his head. Abram is not fooled, not one bit. But is still willing to be obedient at the call of Elohim, even though he know that this man is no toad. But for the Father to get the glory. Thereupon the plague was removed from him, the evil spirit exorcised from him, and he was healed. The king rose and informed me, and the king swore to me with an oath that he had not touched her. Then he brought me Sarai. The king gave her much silver and gold, and great quantities of linen and purple dyed garments. Something's missing. He put them before her and before Hagar as well. So this is how Hagar is Sarai's maid, the Egyptian. He restored her to me and assigned men to escort me out of Egypt. Part is missing. So I, Abram, left with many, many flocks together with silver and gold and went up from Egypt. Lot, my nephew, accompanied me, and he also acquired many flocks for himself and had taken a wife from among the daughters of Egypt. I camped with him in each of my encampments until I reached Bethel, where I had once erected an altar. Now I built it and offered up burnt offerings and grain offerings or cereal offerings to Elohim Most High. There I called upon the name of the eternal Elua, or eternal Adonai, and praised the name of Elohim. I blessed Elohim and gave thanks to him for all of the flocks and goods he had given me, and for the toll that he had done me, and because he had returned me to this land safely. Yes, that's deep. So there are a couple of things that we can take from this. We first see that the reason Abram tells Sarai to say that she is his sister, but further, we first see why they did that. But furthermore, we see a more detailed account of how Yahuwah delivered them from the hands of Pharaoh. Now we see that Abram is visited in a dream. Once this occurs, he tells Sarai what is to come. And when this happens, they go into Egypt and Sarai is taken. So we see more of Abram's character when he is in this land. While he is there, we see that he begins teaching the ways of Yahuwah to the Egyptians, all that he had learned from Enoch, who we know walked with Elohim, according to Genesis or Bereshit. We also see that his deliverance comes because of him keeping faith. We see him humble himself to Yahuwah. He prays to Yahuwah to deliver Sarai, and he did not try to take matters into his own hands. We also see Yahuwah answer his prayer and act on his behalf. But Sarai is not given back immediately. It takes 2 full years before they see the full fruit of this prayer. So we see Abram's patience, and might I add, Sarai's patience. Finally, at the end, after he endured, they were blessed even more, so that when he entered into he was blessed even more so than when he entered into the land. In order for the plagues to leave Pharaoh, we see that Abram has to pray for Pharaoh in order for the plague to be removed and for him to receive his wife.
Come on. All praises to the King. I just want to share 1 Peter 5, starting at verse 6, to give a little context to the time period when it says, you know, and after you have suffered a little while. This little while was 2 years. 1 Peter 5, starting at verse 6. Humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of Elua, that he may exalt you in due time. Casting all your care upon him, for he cares for you. Be sober, be vigilant. He stays sober. He stayed trusting in the Father, even in his anguish. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walks about seeking whom he may devour. Whom resist steadfast in the faith, knowing that the same afflictions are accomplished in your brethren that are in the world. But the Elohim of all grace, whom have called us unto his eternal glory by Hamashiach Yahusha, after that you have suffered a while, make you perfect or complete, make you perfect, establish you, strengthen you, settle you. Like that little while don't mean a few hours, may not only mean a month. This was 2 years. And nowadays, because we have so far of a gulf to cross to get from base level carnality to upright righteousness, that we might be able to show ourselves worthy to be accepted by our King, our Creator, before it's too late. We may have to suffer even longer just to prove ourselves because of how short of a window we have to be proven. But we have to choose to trust him.
Excellent point. All praises. All praises. So we in a home stretch. So Encyclopedia of Britannica on Abraham. And this is just to give us a little bit of historical context of all the whole story that we just read, because some might say, man, they wasn't up. Oh, okay, well, we're gonna see. Like, no, Abraham, he's spot on with what he thought would happen. All right, so Encyclopedia Britannica says this about Abraham. Abraham, Hebrew, Abraham, originally called Abram, or in Hebrew, Abram, flourished early second millennium BCE. All right, so I'm coming here because I want us to see that time period when the scholars say Abram is from second millennium BCE. Okay. The first of the Hebrew patriarchs and a figure revered by the three great monotheistic religions, like what we read earlier, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. According to the biblical book of Genesis, Abraham left Ur in Mesopotamia because Elohim called him to found a new nation in an undesignated land that he later learned was Canaan. He obeyed unquestioningly the commands of Elohim, from whom he received repeated promises and a covenant that his seed would inherit the land. In Judaism, the promised offspring is understood to be the Jewish people descended from Abraham's son, Isaac, born of his wife, Sarah. Similarly, in Christianity, the genealogy of Jesus, or Yahusha, is traced to Isaac, and Abraham's near sacrifice of Isaac is seen as a foreshadowing of, we'll say, Yahusha, sacrifice on the stake or cross. In Islam, it is Ishmael, Abraham's firstborn son, born of Hagar, who is viewed as a fulfillment of Elohim's promise. The Prophet Muhammad is his descendant. All right. So some historical context, but main thing I wanted us to see is they say second millennium BCE. All right, so what was going on in Egypt in the second millennium BCE? Some historical context. So that right there in the upper left or upper right hand corner is what's called, these are the famous step pyramids of Egypt. Okay, so these are pyramids that predated, these are like the first drafts. These predated the great pyramids that we see, like the pyramid of Giza. Yeah, like those came after these. They had some time to revise the plans, and then they built them even bigger and better. But these are like the first drafts, and there are a lot of these scattered all over. But in this particular region here, they went in, they did some digging, and they found some stuff. So the one in the back, I believe, is the, if I'm not mistaken, is the famous step pyramid of Pharaoh Dozier, or Jer, as they say. Yeah. So So that's what that is in the back. And then slightly in the front of it, you have this one that's kind of like a heap now. It's kind of been, it's really didn't stand the test of time as far as the outside, the exterior, but the interior is still told me old. But yeah, this is what they call the famous step pyramid of Pharaoh Unis. All right. So Pharaoh Unis, yeah, that's that pyramid that's in the front. Okay. Down in the picture below, that's what it looks like on the inside. So the inside is like what's preserved. Paintings and all sorts of stuff all over the walls. Every inch of the walls is covered. Every inch of the ceiling is covered. And what's written on it are these utterances or these incantations and these seals and things like that to keep unclean ruachs away from him, and so that he can make his journey into the afterlife without interruption, and also some things for him to be remembered by and to speak of his greatness into the afterlife, and all of these things that he might continue to be a great one and transition into an Elohim himself into the afterlife. Right. And they have all of these seals or incantations going all the way around, written all the way around on this. And so, yeah. So utterance 317. All right. And there are a lot of utterances. A lot. Here's utterance 317. All right. So this is called the pyramid text. And it's found in the pyramid of Unis. And this is the oldest known pyramid to have engraved hieroglyphic writing, written around the second millennium BCE. This is written around the same time as Abraham, and one of the oldest pyramids of Egypt. All right, and this is what it says: utterance 317, verse or line 507. They wrote a lot. To say the words, Unis came today out of the overflow of the inundation. Unis is Sobek. He is a deity. This is a deity, one of their deities, with green feather, with watchful face, with uplifted brow, rushing up, coming from the leg and the tail of the great one. She who resides in the brilliant light. Unis came to his water currents, which are in the land of the flood of the great overflow, to the place of peace with green pastures, which is on the horizon. So they have their own concept of crossing over, but it has nothing to do with the righteous crossing over that Elohim is talking about. Unis causes the grass to become green. So now, since he's crossed over into now he's an Elohim. Unis causes the grass to become green on the two banks of the horizon. Now, mind you, if you know anything about the Nile, and why they're basically saying he's a pharaoh that controls the flooding of the Nile. And the flooding of the Nile brings in the green grass, and it brings in the planting season, basically. So Unis causes the grass to become green on the two banks of the horizon. Unis brings the green brilliance to the great eye, which resides among the pastures. Unis takes his seat, which is on the horizon. Unis arises as Sobek, the son of Neth. Unis eats with his mouth. Unis urinates. Unis copulates with his phallus. Unis is the Lord of seed. So he just sows his seed as he pleases. He who takes the women from their husbands, wherever Unis wants, according to the desire of his heart. So this is how the pharaohs move in this day. And they wrote record of it for themselves. So you can sit and kind of ponder on it yourself whether or not Abram was justified in what he thought. It was just his imagination, as Pharaoh tried to say it, like he said, that blasphemer. Or if this, no, this is how we move. Historic, like the history supports our scripture. All praises. We didn't write this, they wrote this. All praises. So we pretty much wrapping up today, but identifying a pattern. This is in closing. This is something to ponder. Is there a pattern that we can see with Egypt? Is there something going on with going into Egypt and being in a servile position and having to be delivered by Elohim? The Pharaoh had to bless Abram in order to be blessed, just as Elohim said. Instead of being low in a foreign place, the ruler had to turn to him. His wife, bride, hint, hint, was taken into the house of Pharaoh. He came out with many riches. And I wonder if we'll see this pattern later. Come on, man. All praises. So that's it. That's the lesson of the day. Hallelujah. All praises. I appreciate y'all being patient and enduring through the long-winded study, but it was another one of those ones that was like, I can't really slim it down.
This is edification. Please don't apologize for
all
that.
praises.
Like if we show ourselves to be those that can't endure sound doctrine, shame on us.
All praises.
This is sound and it's needful. Like if you'd have taken any part of that out, it wouldn't have really made sense.
All praises.
Thank you for being faithful. All praises.
If we can spend hours watching a movie or hours watching a show, then surely, surely, doing the things that we're supposed to do to edify, like Ox said, ourselves.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know what you said, but whatever it is, I'm okay with it.
All praises. No, I was just saying I was going to cut it off for the people who are watching online or who will watch online. And with that being said, we definitely thank you for the lesson, for the parsha, because lots of Tov information in there. Lots of Tov. Yeah, go yourself.
All praises.
Go you yourself get. Papa may have. Say, y'all bless the child that go they self. No, but until we meet again, Most High keep you, Most High shine, make his face to shine upon you, Most High baruch you in your home until next time we get together and go over some more good information, Tov information. Y'all bless. All right.
Indeed.
Shalom, shalom, shalom.